Jesus did establish the kingdom of God on earth. If he did not, he was not the Messiah. And Matthew chapter 16 makes it very clear that Jesus intended to build his church on the confession that he is the Messiah. So anyone who wants to talk about the church being plan B or an alternate compared to God's establishment of the kingdom is mistaken, because Jesus links the two in Matthew chapter 16 together, showing a very intimate connection between the two. The kingdom was a more broad way to talk of it, but the church was the local gatherings where the business of the kingdom at large was taken care of. So locally you had the church coming together around the royal table of Jesus to celebrate his victory over the powers that be and the forces at work in the world in his cross, and then putting all the display the new world that's coming when he was raised from the dead. So what we have then is this gross misunderstanding of what the kingdom is. The kingdom is wherever God rules and reigns. The people who he reigns over, those who have accepted that Jesus is the rightful king, that he is Messiah, he is the Lord of this earth, and he's the only one who can save us from the mess that we've made of the world, become part of his church. Now, in that process of coming under the reign of Jesus, you have the kingdom. So the very people who compose his church are those who also compose his kingdom. It's a kingdom of faith, not race, of grace, not race, or observance of the Torah, the law of Moses. Instead, as it was always intended, God was calling together a nation of people who would live under his reign and in so doing put on display what the world ought to look like when people place themselves under the rule of the true king of the earth, the heavens and the earth, Jesus. When he was ascended to heaven, he took his rightful place at the right hand of God, where he assumed rule over heaven and earth. And you can see that even in Matthew chapter 28 verse 18. When Jesus did that, it opened the door for Israel to include all nations. And that's exactly what God intended when he called Abram out of the land of Ur to become a pilgrim in the land that he was promising him and his descendants. And his descendants would be blessed by God, and they in turn would extend that blessing to the rest of the nations on earth. Read Genesis 12 verses 1 through 3 and see if that's not true. So Israel was expanded by Jesus to include all who would believe that he is the Christ. He is the one meant to rescue the world from all the trouble that it's in. Now that's not theoretical, because Jesus, when he was raised from the dead, put that kingdom on display. He showed that a man who lives under the authority of God could in fact be raised from the dead, indestructible, immortal, and glorious. He did that when he was raised from the dead 3 days after his condemnation as a criminal by the powers that exist. In so doing, I believe Jesus, through very simple and unassuming kinds of ways, showed the world a way out of the mess and the status quo that just prevails in the world everywhere. It's not that everyone doesn't want to make the world a better place. It's just that we keep on trying the same things over and over and over. And Jesus was showing us a new way out, a new way to be a human being, a new way to be a kingdom of God on earth. And those meetings where those people under his reign come together are to be the places where they talk about his what he wants to accomplish in the world, to honor him and honor what he done in saving the world, in setting us free from the powers that once held us in a grasp so tight that we couldn't break free of it on our own. God has truly saved us in every sense of that word, and the church is the place where those people come together, all part of the kingdom of God, to accomplish what he wants done in the world in this generation. So I hope that helps to understand the relationship between the kingdom and the church, not to set them at odds with each other as been done so often, but instead to see them intimately linked together to accomplish God's will in the world. Thank you for your attention, and I believe that once we get a hold of these things, we'll see that Jesus is, and his real influence isn't going to be stifled any longer. That when God's people recognize what he intended for them in the world, that it's going to shake the world just like it did in the first century. Thank you.